So, hello guys. We are up with our second podcast, and today's guest is again really more special because it's Anjelene, and I've known Anjelene for a good amount of time. She was with me in anchoring club, and we have done lots of practices together. And apart from anchoring, reading, etc., she's also really good at coding. That's why she was placed at Wells Fargo as summer intern, and she was also got converted to a full time opportunity. This podcast is going to be about that, how she cracked it, how was her entire journey, and her message to all our fellow juniors and as well as people who are aspiring to join the company. And Vansh, why don't you add up to that?
Yes, definitely. So, just like a previous guest, Krishna Bhai, who cracked Flipkart, Wells Fargo is also one of the marquee companies in VIT. And congratulations, Angeline, on getting your internship and then converting it into a full-time offer. And just so you guys know, Wells Fargo was a very difficult way to crack. And apart from that, the eligibility criteria for Wells Fargo was a 90% in your 10th standard, a 90% in your 12th standard, and 9 CGPA in your college life. So your academics truly speak for yourself. And Angeline, just let's give an introduction to yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vansh and Ansh, for introducing me. Like they said, hi everyone, my name is Anjelene. I'm a Malayali and I'm based out of Bangalore. And I'm going to join Wells Fargo for their 5 month internship program and later as a full time employee. So, more about myself, I'm interested in music. I also read a lot, I write a lot about things that end up making me cry in the night. So, yeah, that's much about me. Let's move to the questions, I think.
Yeah. So, Angeline, before we start on to all those rigorous, serious questions, I want to ask a small light question. How was your college life? What did you expect out of it? And, how was it all VIT buzz about?
Oh, wow. So, in one sentence, I would like to say college life was a breeze. I don't think this is a popular opinion, but like I really enjoyed it and it was actually really nice. So, I think to give some background, because for me, 10th was fine, but 12th grade was like pretty difficult for me. I don't think many people know this about me, but I was a NEET aspirant. I
Oh,
wrote NEET. Yeah, I went for coaching, NEET coaching in Akash for like a long time, and I wrote NEET, and I was almost into getting admission in a nearby medical college in Bangalore. And that's when I decided last minute that I really couldn't do medicine. I needed to get into engineering somehow because I was always interested in computer science. So rather than computer science, I was really interested in problem solving. And I really used to chase the thrill that solving a problem gives me. So that's how I got into a private institution like VIT. And I don't know what I was expecting. Like I was like, we'll just see how it goes because it was a very last minute thing. But thankfully, it ended up well for me. So yeah, college was nice. That's all I have to say.
this is like a very big surprise for me also. I didn't know that you were a NEET aspirant. Even I studied biology that like not for 2 years like you, just for 2 months, and I was like, no, I can't. Like I can, but not those plant and all. But yeah, wow. So yeah, and I also get that the thrill which you are talking about, and which I feel all engineers around us feel, the thrill in solving problems and contributing. So yeah. Also, once let's move forward.
Yeah. So, like, you cracked a 3-month summer internship with Wells Fargo, right? So, what were your initial thoughts at the beginning of the third year? Like, were you in that internship cracking phase, or like, were you like experimenting with your projects and your problem solving skills and everything? So, like, what
Yeah.
was your placement journey until Wells Fargo as an internship company came into it?
Yeah, about that. First thing, small correction, it was a 2 month internship. So it was not like the entirety of 3 months. And yeah, the internships, that summer internships that started coming in the fifth sem, it was a big shock to me because I don't know, for some reason, I just never knew that companies would visit in the fifth sem for a summer internship. And I think us, like all of us as a batch, all of us were just surprised. We were like, oh my God, like companies are just coming out of nowhere and like, what do we do? So until then, talking about studies, it was fine because like in the beginning itself, I had a pretty good CGPA, like a GPA in my first sem. Like I got 9.6 in my first sem, and I would say that carried me forward through the entire because the rest of my GPAs were not that great. So that one GPA carried me through the rest of my semesters, and so that part was fine. Like academics wise, it was okay. Project wise, that was when I just had started experimenting with my projects. So I really didn't have anything to show on my resume telling that, this is a solid project that I've done. So yeah, the problem was that fourth and fifth sems was just when I had started experimenting with my projects as such. So even if it was web dev, I just had like maybe one or two, random projects that you start out with, the stuff like that. And my specialization is information security. So right now I have like maybe one or two good projects in information security. But back then we didn't even have information security subjects to start with. So like I had just started out there also. So like yeah, I didn't have a really good project to show on my resume. I just We had done the AWS certification, so that was one. And even talking about coding practice, like I've always heard people say that they grinded on lead code, they finished the driver sheet, they've done that. But like in my story, none of these apply. And yeah, that's just the truth. Thing is, for me, coding started way back in school. So this might be another surprising thing, but because our school started with C programming when I was in sixth grade.
Oh.
So yeah, I did C programming in sixth grade, C plus plus in seventh, and Java in eighth, ninth, and tenth. So like yeah, that was a really good, that really improved my programming skills, I would say, starting right then. And by the time I came to first sem of college, I think I had a really good grasp of programming concepts and problem solving skills, maybe much more than my peers had at that point. So I think that really gave me an edge. And I'm the type of person, so even in our regular coursework, when we had subjects like DSA or DA, whenever I solved a problem, I made sure that I understood it completely, so that if other problems were asked related to that, I could just solve it there. So I think the way I studied helped me more than how much effort I put into it, if I can put it that way. So I did try lead code questions, or started with some pathway to different data structures, but then I really couldn't keep up with it. So I just followed my way of studying. Like I picked all the data structures that I thought was important, understood them, and solved questions. And once I was sure that I could solve more questions in them, I just stopped, I guess. And yeah, that was the thing with summer internship, because I think most people were unprepared. And at that point, I think that much knowledge was enough for us. I would not give this advice to someone who is sitting for placements right now, because that would definitely not be enough. But yeah, I think at that point that did help me.
And like, when did Wells Fargo came in that month?
I think they sent out their first email in August.
Okay.
Like they were one of the first companies to come for summer internship, but then after that they ghosted us. Like after the first email, there was nothing. Like we applied, I think, and then nothing happened. And I think they sent another email in September, which is when they started following up.
There's just one point I like to add, guys, that all of us, even I, was like very scared to apply to internships. I don't know much. Should I apply or not? I won't get selected. And according to Angelina, even she felt her projects were not complete, yet she applied, and you see, she got selected. So I think even confidence matters a lot. Your trust in yourself, that how much coding practice you have done, or like, there's something that you might not have tried many things, but you have a trust in yourself that no, I can do things, I can figure it out. I think that's what helped Angeline in a way, to what I've heard. So yeah, keep applying. Please don't refrain yourself from doing that.
Yeah, exactly, Ansh. Like, keep applying. Don't just get stressed out of the placement thing. Like, nothing's working out for you. I'm pretty sure that everything eventually will work out for you. And coming back to Angeline, as you shared, like, you had your own very journey, and like every person is different. So we're just getting into the experiences of like any viewer might relate to the different type of people on the podcast who will come, and they might get and link up with them and find their own path in this entire scenario. And even on your school, like that's a really good thing because I wish that more schools in India start
Yes.
with something like coding because now coding has been one of the most essential skills that almost like every man, not every person, but lot of people should know about that. And even if we talk about finance and other such skills, so I hope that schools in India develop. And this has been your journey till Wells Fargo. And now, as you said, Wells Fargo ghosted you. So, like, what was the entire mail scenario and what was the test pattern and like what was all in your mindset? Like, were you preparing something special for it, something different for it, or what was it about?
Okay, so first thing is Wells Fargo was not the only company that I had applied for. I think it was maybe the 10th or 15th company that I had applied for. And my CGPA at that point was, I think, 9.13, if I'm not wrong. I just sat and calculated yesterday because I knew I would be giving this today. So I think it was 9.13. So, the all the companies that came in the beginning, like Intuit and Optum, sorry, yeah, all those companies just maybe see, their criteria was never 9.5 above, but obviously when they shortlist they would like the hidden criteria of 9.5. So I was not really getting shortlisted for many companies, and even if I was getting shortlisted, like I was only able to go till the OA round. uh, Before that, I had given interviews for another company called Optiv, which was an infosec based company, and they came looking for only information security students, like the BCI branch. And for that company, I prepared a lot because we had not, like I said before, we had not started information security subjects then. So like I had to go through a whole preparation phase where put like a lot of effort into it and studied those things. And I went till the last round and got rejected at the last round. So yeah.
That's
So I think Wells
heartbreaking.
Fargo. Yes, yes, it was. That was my very first rejection, and I still remember. Like I think it was like around 9 p.m. or something, and we were sitting there, and then at the last round, the person came and they were like, "Angeline, please leave. You've been rejected." And I was like, "Ouch." Yeah. So that was that. Uh, but then yeah, so that was hard for me. And Wells Fargo came, I think, a little while after that. I think the next company was Wells Fargo, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, so when their mail came, I remember, so like my dad works in tech, like he's in Bangalore here, he works in tech. So like he's not a software engineer, but like he works in the tech field. So I remember him, like I used to keep in touch with him over the companies that are coming and what I'm applying for and all of that. And when I told him that, Wells Fargo came, he was like, "Oh my God, Wells Fargo is a good company, try getting into it." Like no pressure, but like try getting into it. And I remember thinking like, "Oh my God, no way that's happening." Because like I just told my dad, I was like, don't keep hopes. I'll try, but like, you don't never know if it's gonna happen. But yeah, I applied anyways. And preparation, like it's just like the normal preparation that I used to do. Went through my data structures, like solved a couple questions, not a couple questions actually, like a lot of questions. And went through my oops concepts, because that was also one of the other subjects that we were doing then. And we didn't have like system design and all of that. Like if I could do that, I would. But back then it was not really a thing, because like we hadn't gotten into that advanced level of subjects yet. So not that. But yeah, I didn't prepare specifically for Wells Fargo, maybe because I didn't have much hopes. So I just did the regular preparation that I could, solve questions. And I had sheets, like I used to prepare notes for myself, like maybe searching and like all different types of searching algorithms, and like what key points I need to remember about those, maybe just the algorithm in a short way. Same thing for sorting, what different types of sorts are there. So like I used to prepare a lot of notes, so I go through all of those. Yeah, so I think that's the kind of preparation that I did for the interview.
Okay, and like I would like to ask you one more thing. Like you got rejected out of Optiv, and the very next company, Wells Fargo, you got an interview in that. So like, were you focused on some things like, okay, I might have made this mistake in Optiv, but now I need to be careful about this. So like, generally people who get rejected in one interview, they tend out to, get through the second interview. So that's a very important thing.
Yeah, about that. So the interviewer who was inoperative, like who was talking to me, so he'd ask me like, why information security, or like why ethical hacking, why are you into that? And I did not have a good answer to that at that time. I just told him, it just sounds interesting, and he laughed at my face. He was like, "Is that a reason?" Because I didn't have a reason to give back then. So, and then he himself told me, he was like, looking at your profile and looking at your skill set, I really think you'll be better at a developer role. So, even though the rejection kind of, I felt rejected after that, when he said that rather than an information security engineer role, you would be better fit for a developer role, that kind of gave me a little confidence, I guess.
So that's true. Like some interviews are just a stepping stones to success.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, like I feel everyone feels their first rejection a lot, even though life moves on. You still remember that, and yeah, remember my Citibank this thing. I can't remember. I can't forget my interviewer's name, etc. What he said, what he questions he asked me. But yeah, anyways, I think what happens for the best because rejections teach you a lot. But yeah, बातें तो होती रहेंगी. Let's focus on what everyone has been waiting for. What was the test about? What were the questions? So let's begin from the test.
Yeah, so I'll just start like a little bit before that. So the male, like you guys said, the cutoff was 9 CGPA and no arrears, same as before. And there were two roles that Wells Fargo came for. One was program associate, and the other one was called ADAP, which is Advanced Data and Analytics Program. And that was obviously not my niche because it included experience in Python, SQL, R, and even ML algorithms, which I kind of know now, but nothing about back then. So obviously, I applied for program associate, which in the JD the main thing was design, develop, test software. So basically, an SDE role. And yeah, so I think the 9 GPA cutoff itself was like a big deal because when the shortlist came for the OA, it had around like 750 people. And I think they just took everyone above 9 CGPA who were, everyone who applied. I don't think they really did any more shortlisting there. And yeah, so to talk about the OA, so we had it physically at PRP itself. So we had to go there and we had to use the systems there and give the online assessment. So the first part was an aptitude round. So just like always, and I felt out of all the interviews that I had given before, the aptitude round was a little bit more on the difficult side. So we had math related questions, data related questions, like you would have graphs and just data in front of you, and you had to answer questions based on that. And even their English questions were a little more on the difficult side. And even like the way the questions were worded, like even if the questions were easier, the way they were put were kind of difficult to comprehend, and you had to spend some time on them. Like it's not like some questions you just look at it and you can answer it right away. You had to look at them and you had to think for a while. You had to like do some mental calculation, mental thought, put some thought into it, and only then could you answer. So yeah, that was that. And about the coding questions, we had two coding questions. And the first one, so this is really funny because, like I said, the question was like this long, like really long. Okay, yeah, this long, really long, and a lot of jargon. It was about, I remember the words really clearly just for the first question because like it stumped me so much. It was like memory servers, data allocation, data deallocation, that this, a lot of jargon, like a lot of jargon. I spent like 5 minutes just reading the question. At the end of it, I was like, wait a second, this is just some of the elements of an array.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was literally just that much. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I read the question wrong. I just wrote the code for it and it ran and it passed all the test cases.
Whoa.
And so I think the first question was just, to test your comprehension. Someone else who would have just read the question first, they might have just thought, oh my God, this sounds too complicated. I cannot solve it. But if you would have spent like an extra 5 minutes on the question to analyze what they're actually asking, you would have understood that it's just some of the elements of an array.
And the second question, do you remember?
Yeah, the second question was, I think, on the medium level, but I don't remember that question because I think I was able to solve it as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it was using like a data structure, like maybe like a tree or a graph or something, like a medium level question, not that difficult and even not that difficult to comprehend, I think. And apart from all this, in the end, they had a bonus question. Yeah, so you had to solve that in 10 minutes. It's a question and it's just 10 minutes and you have to solve it. And that was like, uh, those the calendar type of questions where, like you have to guess the week, the day of the week or something like that. I don't really
This
remember.
was not
But
coding. This was
it was coding. It
Coding
was
this
coding.
one.
okay.
You had to write the code for that in 10 minutes.
Okay.
And yeah, so and I fluked that one because I think the response was like true or false, and there were just three test cases. So then I tried with true and I tried with false, and whichever was the passing the most test cases,
Yeah,
I just did that. Because like to solve that, there are specific formulas which you use to figure out the days of the week of the
yeah.
specific day of a calendar, and I did not know that. So then yeah, I just did that. So yeah, the OA was fine, and even after I came out of the OA, the general consensus was that the language, the wording, and the questions were itself very difficult. And once you got through, then it was okay. And the bonus question also, like not a lot of people were able to solve it, because like they were very like unexpected questions, like not questions that you would expect in a company OA, like like vague concepts, or like stuff you wouldn't really expect. So yeah, so this was the OA experience. And yeah.
So if what I get from you is like Wells Fargo as a company focuses a lot on your comprehension skills, how difficultly worded things you understand. So if anyone is preparing for that, just for Wells Fargo, I think they have an edge over others if they're very quick on their foot, if they comprehend things very well, especially in terms of English, etc. And also they don't panic after seeing a long question. They should wait, relax, calm, and give the answer. Because as you said, just some of the array elements is like easiest thing it could be. So yeah, that's like a very important lesson to take away, I think. And yeah, so can you tell us how many interviews did you have, and also how was your first interview like?
Yeah, so like I told you, for the OA, like around 750 people were shortlisted, and out of that, when the shortlist for the first round of interview came, like it was only around 120 people. So I don't know like how they got that, but yeah, that was like a major, like a drastic
Mhm.
downfall from 750 to 120. So yeah, for the interviews, like we had 3 rounds of interviews. The first one was an online round, but we had to give it in SJT itself. So like we could go in and use their systems and give the interview. So that was a mix of technical round. Basically, it was a technical round, and it was online. The second round was a very weird round. I do not know what to call it, but we'll talk about it. And third one was managerial HR, a mix of that.
Okay.
So, Angeline, you shared briefly about all the interview rounds, and let's dive into the details of the first round. And what we do is just give a difficulty level out of 10 for each interview round. So let's just start with round one.
Okay, so as I said before, round one was a technical round, and we had to give it virtually. So yeah, I went in, and most of the questions were DSA based. And also, yeah, before starting, I want to make this note for whoever's listening. This was a summer internship interview experience, so the questions might be of a little easier level, or like you cannot compare this with the final year interview situation. It might be similar or it might not be, so I just want to put that out as a disclaimer, because like even the it was in fifth sem, so the level of subjects that we had were also different, so yeah, just keep that in mind. So yeah, so I think the first question that he asked me was about arrays and linked list, like a deep dive into that, like what is an array, what is a linked list, and how is it different, and about each of the differences. I said like why is it different, or how would you use that, or like a deep dive into each of the differences between an array and a linked list. And then he went into trees, because I think I told him that I'm not that comfortable with graphs as a data structure. I think I told arrays, linked lists, and trees are fine. So he did not ask me anything about graphs. So that was actually nice. So yeah, about trees, then about tree traversal, and he asked me to write down code for tree traversal, and a few, like I think 1 or 2 questions related to trees. He asked me to code like on the spot, and show it to him. So that was that. And I think about DSA, that was it. The idea that I got from the questions were, I think he wanted to evaluate how deeply I understood my concepts. I think from all the interviews as a whole was like, rather than how much more do I know, it was more like whatever I know, how deep do I know that? Yeah, and then they had asked us about the core subjects that we had started that sem. So if you guys remember, in fifth sem we had started with core computer subjects like networks, OS, compiler, and all those subjects. So then we had just started studying those subjects. So I got the feeling that they wanted to ask us a lot more, but our syllabus didn't allow for it. So he asked me like what were the topics that we were doing in class right then. So I remember in OS we were doing bankers algorithm back then. So then he asked me to give him bankers algorithm and explain it in detail, and I think I was able to do that. And I think he asked like a few small questions about networks and OS, like here and there, not very detailed questions. Like bankers algorithm, he did go into a lot of detail, but I was able to answer that. And networks and OS, maybe like small questions here and there. And yeah, that was with the first round. I think my first round was a little more, like a little smaller and comparatively easier. Like maybe out of 10 I would rate it 6 or a 7, 6.5 maybe, because it was actually fine. Like I did not find it a problem. But there were other people who got like much harder questions, and there were people who got asked how many liquid questions they had solved, and what rank they had on hacker rank and all of that. So I think mostly it depends on what kind of interviewer you get and your luck on that day. Because like placements on a whole, like a lot of it is based on luck. So you need to know your concepts, but there is also a luck factor involved. So yeah, for me this was it. That was the first round.
That's very true. So, like, nothing about your projects and your development skills in that round.
Yeah, about that. So that's what I said. I did not have any projects as such to show then. So like I told him that I was just starting to experiment with my projects, and I told him about the the few web dev projects that I had. But I got the feeling that they were not really looking for web development as a topic they wanted to look into. So then there were no questions about that.
Okay, so to sum up your round one, there was DSA level questions and some information about that. And then there were code fundamentals, which include DBMS, OS, CN, and I'm pretty sure OOPS or something.
Yeah. Oh my God. Sorry, I forgot about that. There were a few questions about oops too, but like at this point, like I know them so well that it just slipped my mind. Yeah. So, but like oops questions were pretty simple. Yeah.
Okay, so
Oops.
that's wrap on round one. So let's move on to round two.
Okay, so I want you all prepared for this because like round two is like the craziest thing. I have never heard of any company ever conducting an interview like that. So I told you that 120 people were selected for the first round, and I think after that the numbers were halved. I think only around 50 to 60 people went forward to the second round, and they called maybe six or seven of us. I'm not sure about the number, maybe six or seven of us to the conference room. So the conference room inside SJT, like I want you all to picture it. So like there's a long table and we're all sitting around it, and there's a person from Wells, like a representative, who's there, and he is writing a set of questions on the board. There's a whiteboard, and he's writing questions. So the question, I don't remember all the questions, but like I'll tell you what I remember. They're like, "What do you know about Wells as a company, and why do you want to work at Wells? What's your favorite subject among all the subjects that you've studied till now? Who's your favorite professor among all the professors you've studied till now? And yeah, what are all the subjects that you've studied till now, and yeah, stuff like that. So like we're all walking into the room and we're sitting around the table, and yeah, he's just writing down the questions on the board, and it's very confusing because I've never done anything like that.
Very
So
strange.
yeah, we
Yeah, same.
exactly, yes, very strange, and none of us know what is happening, not and because we were the first batch that was called in, because like we went out and told people this is happening, but
Mhm.
we didn't know what was happening. So it was very strange. So we sat around the table, and dude starts distributing A4 size sheets, and we're all like, yeah. So so we have pens and we have sheets, and he was like, write down the answers. So yeah, we write down answers. And
So wait,
thankfully, I
did you
had
write down the answers?
yes, we wrote down the answers, and this is not
Wow.
even the craziest part. The craziest part is coming.
Okay.
So
There's more. There's more to the story.
yes, yes, there is more to the story. So we start writing down answers to those, and thankfully I had prepared about Wells as a company, and that is another thing, obviously, that when you go for a company you need to prepare about what the company is, what they do, what are the services they offer, or if they're a product based company, what products they release. You need to know those things. So yeah, I wrote down all the answers to that, and to my bad luck, so when they had asked who's your favorite professor, I think I wrote, I don't really think I have a favorite professor.
Oh,
Because yeah, because like I was, see, at that point I was just being honest, because like I just wrote that I don't think I've met anyone that I need to make them my favorite. Yeah, so then yeah, so then so as and when we finished writing the answers, so he was sitting in the back, like at the back of the table, and he called us. He was like, come on. So it was literally like we have to take our sheets and go and show it to him. He'll read the answers, and he'll give us other questions. So I went,
like a
and then he
project vibe or
underlined.
something.
Exactly, yes, that was the vibe. So he read my answers and he underlined the I don't have a favorite professor part. And he was like, oh. And I was like, I was like, just being honest. And then I don't know, it was just a funny part, I guess. Right now I laugh at it, but I was freaking out back then. So yeah, so he takes out another A4 size sheet, and based on the subjects that we had written, that we had studied during our previous semesters, he writes questions from those subjects. So, like for me, the subjects that I'd written down, I mean, it would have been the same for everyone because we all studied the same subjects. So, like I'd written CAO or probability statistics, DSD. So he writes questions from all those. So from probability, I got a question like, the red balls, green balls, blue balls. You pull these many balls out of the bag. What is the probability that it will be this color ball? Something like that. And from CEO, if I remember right, he asked me about paging, segmentation, the different levels of caching. Yeah, that was that. And from DSD, he asked me to draw a T flip flop. Do you guys
Flip-flop.
remember what flip flops are?
Oh,
Yeah, that was a crazy question. I think that was the only question that I was not able to answer correctly. And I think from DSADA, he asked difference between Dijkstra's and Bellman-Ford. And what else? I think there were like two, three questions more, which I don't remember. These are the ones off the top of my head. And yeah, so then he gave us questions again, and we were supposed to go back, sit and write the answers to those questions, and then bring it back to him for correction.
mhm.
So this
So
is
he
what was
was
happening. So
probably awarding you marks for each answer.
no, he was not. That was the only thing that was missing, to be honest. Yeah, so basically, we wrote down questions, and then after writing down the questions, we were supposed to go back and show it to him, and he would basically like correct the answers. And I think most of mine were all right, except for the T flip flop. And like he looked at my T flip flop, and like he looked at me, and I was like, "Sir, like it was not a core subject for me. It was DSD, and like I didn't pay enough attention to remember how a T flip flop looks like a sem after that." And I think like he understood it. It was not a big deal, I think. But I think all my other answers were correct, or at least that's what I felt. And after that, he didn't tell us that we were selected for the next round even. He was just like, okay, you can wait in the next room. And I think that's how I understood that I was, selected for the next round.
Mhm. But I also find it very good actually. Like instead of a traditional one-on-one interview, they did something that actually tests your skills. So I think like from your inner self, you must be feeling so proud that I know all these concepts and they tested me on that. So like they really got to know what I know. So
Yeah, kind of. Because I think it also tested how you behave when you panic, because that was something no one expected. And I think they also, like evaluated us based on how we reacted to the situation itself. Because like everyone's face was like, too shocked and like, what do we do now? Because most of the people didn't remember what they did in the previous semesters. I think thankfully I remembered to some extent. But like I think more than the concepts themselves, like they were also looking for how we handled the situation.
and guys, like as much as I know Angeline personally, I feel she's a very calm person in general. Though the reason she got selected was also amongst everyone should have been the calmest.
So like, okay, so I don't know how you would rate your round, the difficulty of a round like this, but you have to. So what do you tell?
Yeah,
I think
I
it
think
will
it
be
would
an
probably
equation,
be
non-linear equations, not
lol.
straight up integer.
No, I think it would be somewhere around 9, because even based on the questions that he asked and the sheer unexpectedness of it, I think it would be 9.
All right. So after an amazing round two, how was the round three like? What was it about?
Yeah, so for round three, we had like the HR, and that's why I said it was like a HR plus a managerial round. So there were two people, like the panel consisted of two people, and the HR was asking like normal HR questions like what are your hobbies, what are your interests, where are you from, questions about family, and I think one question that I remember them asking was so I in my resume there were things about how I was in the music club and I was in the external events and all that, like senior co-member, all of that. So then they asked me something about, tell me about a time when there was a conflict in the group and how you resolved it and something like that. So I think like two or three questions of that nature, like pretty much that's standard at this point. And the funny thing was in between that. So it was kind of like the HR was asking one HR question and then the manager was asking a managerial question, or not really managerial. They were asking questions about Java. So firstly, they asked me which language I was comfortable with, and I said Java because I mainly code in Java. And they were asking questions about how the program is compiled. Like in detail about JVM, JDK, garbage collection. Like rather than coding itself, like questions about the language itself, like how the language works on a deeper level. So I would be frank and say that I was not able to answer all the questions. Like some of them I was, but not all the questions that they asked about the in-depth working of Java itself. But yeah, that was how the third round went.
All right. So, damn, like, so we had two interviewers. One was grinding you on language, one was
Yeah,
grinding you on the behavior part of it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
was it more of like welcome to Wells Fargo thing, or did anyone even get rejected in the HR as well?
I think people did. Like, I'm not very sure, but I think people did. Not many, but I think there were people who did.
So the performance mattered there also. It was not like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
welcome to Wells Fargo thing.
No, 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 no. Also, oh, wait, in the third round, there was also like a puzzle, like, a logical puzzle type.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
remember the exact question, but, and even that, like, I did not solve the entire question. Like, I started solving it and I was like thinking out loud and telling my thought process. And I think as soon as they figured out that I was along the right track, they asked me to stop. They were like, okay, now it's fine. So, which is why, as a suggestion or as a tip, I would say if you're stuck somewhere or if you don't know how to solve a problem, maybe just think out loud and talk about your problem solving approach. And even if your final answer might not help, that approach might help.
Guys, if you watched our last interview, this was the exact same thing Krishna told us. If you don't know the solution, at least talk it to your interviewer, tell it out loud. And yeah, for puzzles, I would also say that there's Geek for Geek 150 problems somewhere around. So most of the interviews I have seen ask you from that basket. So if you go through that, that will be really great. And Angeline, damn, you had a terrific journey. Like I personally didn't know that, okay, Wells Fargo was hard, but this hard, I didn't have an idea. It,
I
like the
can tell that it was pretty hard since I got rejected from it, like in the OA only itself. So yeah,
Yeah, yo.
the entire process, I can just imagine the difficulty level it might have been.
like I feel they checked each and every strand of your engineering via the assessment. So like yeah, really great. I feel like people should actually learn from this. What level of preparation, even if you say you didn't, but you actually were kind of prepared for it. Since I feel like amongst like many of us, you have the thing that when you learn something, you learn very deeply about it, and you
Yes,
won't
yeah.
get you get the tingling sensation that no, I have not understood this properly, so I need to learn it on depth. So I feel yeah,
Yeah, to add on to that, like if I have to give an example, like if you take something as simple as Dijkstra's,
yeah,
people might finish studying the concept in like half an hour or 1 hour. I remember that I went into a total rabbit hole. So like I watched like 100 videos on it, and like I spent so much time before, like not right before the exam, obviously, but like I spent so much time on it just to understand, like like why not something else, or why this is the best, or like right now I think they figured out a new algorithm that's faster than
yeah,
Dijkstra's
yeah,
also.
yeah, yeah.
So like what I'm saying is that's just my approach to learning. Like people might have it different, but like go deep is what I do. So
Yeah, I think I feel slow learners are the best learners.
So, Angeline, this was all about the internship, but congratulations once again on that internship. And I'm pretty sure that it was a very good 2 month period with them. And since you got converted after that, like what all things did you do right to get converted? And like anyone who is looking to convert his internship into a full-time offer can focus on. So was it the networking, was it the work ethic, or was it like just everything in usual?
yeah, sure. So the internship experience was really great. So I was the only intern on my team, and if I had to say in one sentence, the work I did was migration of one testing platform to another of their code base. So, and I didn't really finish it because Wells Fargo, being in the fintech, section, they had a lot of controls, a lot of regulations, and you have to get past all of it to actually start working on their code base. So that took a lot of time, and 2 months was kind of less. So I think in order to secure the PPO, I think the main thing that my manager said that I had was, the interest to learn and just open mindedness and always willing to learn. And I think Wells Fargo as a company, really from their interview stages, really values that because, like, just the willingness to learn and being open to feedback wherever you go. I think that was important.
So yeah, we have come to an end of this, and I can't believe, Angeline, this was one of the most wholesome session I had. It was like I am getting my interview in Wells Fargo right now, and as if I am getting placed. So yeah, really beautiful, and we wish you a best of luck to continue achieving great heights in the future as well. And thank you so much for joining us. And Vansh,
And
would you like to tell something?
so thank you so much, Angeline, for signing up readily for this podcast, for taking an experiment with us. And really, as just Ansh said, that it has been one of the most wholesome sessions since we've been on two podcasts already. So I can tell that this podcast will be really, really insightful. And just to sum up, if you'd like to thank anyone, be it your parents, be it your friends, or anyone who helped you through this entire journey or supported you, so the stage is yours.
Yeah, sure. So, firstly, I think I would like to thank my parents because, like, my dad, I told you guys I was a NEET aspirant, and last minute I changed my mind and I told I want to do engineering. And, like, my dad was ready to invest in me, you can say, or take the risk and, like, be like, okay, you can do what you want. And even throughout the interviews, he was always there checking in, asking how did it go, and never pressurizing me or, oh, didn't you get this or you got rejected. It was not like that. So, I want to thank my parents. After that, I want to thank my roommates because like they were there for me through thick and thin. Jyoti, Danny, Pragna, and also Parvati. So they were there for me all the time. And I remember that even when I got placed, it was them who were happier than I was. Like I got such a reception in my room. They were all screaming and shouting. It was so good. So I want to thank them. And also, I want to thank my boyfriend because he keeps reminding me of how proud he is of me. And, like, it's always good to hear that. And apart from that, thank you for you guys to, for inviting me here and helping me share my experience because I think this will be really useful. And it's a great thing that you guys have decided to start something like this. And I hope and pray that it'll end up good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
And
so much, Angeline.
since we all three are from Anchoring Club, I like to do a tradition.
Sure.
All right, guys. So this is your host Ansh
This is your host, Vansh.
And this is your host, Anjelene.
signing off.
So please subscribe, whatever. Okay, thank you.